I'm a psychotherapist, and today we're going to be diagnosing Miles Edgeworth. When we're introduced to Miles Edgeworth, we see that he's a very pompous, arrogant prosecutor, but he's able to back it up. He's able to win over the courtroom with his personality and smart choice of words. He's able to win basically all of his cases. He seems to show a lot of perfectionism, a lot of arrogance. He was raised by Manfred von Karma, who trained him to basically be what he is today. So because of his father's tragic passing, he developed a fear of earthquakes and elevators. He also really likes the in-universe television show, The Steel Samurai. Now, let's get this out of the way. I actually don't think that Miles Edgeworth meets the criteria for PTSD. This goes so against how I would imagine most people see PTSD. Because of the way that we colloquially use the term, it's really easy to think that the only qualifier for PTSD is just there's an event in my past that I try to forget about, and when I'm reminded of it, there's like this burst of emotion and I feel like I'm back there. However, PTSD is an extremely specific diagnosis with a set of criteria, whereas that is a normal trauma response for a lot of different people that I would not necessarily qualify for PTSD. A big part of the criteria for PTSD is an impairment of function beyond that. While Edgeworth does avoid reminders of the incident, I don't see it impairing his function to an incredible degree. He doesn't have an extremely low self-image. He doesn't experience a lack of pleasure with daily activities. He finds it pretty easy to find interest in other things. These are all things that we look for as therapists to see if someone has PTSD, is like, how much does this pervasively affect the entire way that their brain is wired? And all I see is that he has a very intense trauma response. So actually, I would say that Miles Edgeworth doesn't have PTSD. Additionally, I don't think he has something like NPD. I actually think that that was just like a learned behavior that he had, is to come off very narcissistically as a way to command the courtroom. If you look at his interactions throughout the series, I actually don't think that he's that narcissistic. I don't think smug and narcissistic personality disorder are necessarily the same thing. So I've seen some people say that he has autism. That is like fine to headcanon. I personally don't see enough criteria being actually met from what we can see in the games, but I definitely think it's possible. I'm not saying that it for sure isn't there. Based on what I've seen, I'd be lying if I said I thought that he concretely met the criteria, but I also don't think that we can necessarily rule him out based on what we see in the games either. Once again, I think it is actually very possible for people to be very hyper-fixated on a specific interest and perfectionistic in their work, and I don't necessarily think that that means that they for sure have autism.